In my years of watching Nuzlocke content, I've seen runs of incredibly challenging ROM hacks, hardcore runs completing main series games using only a single type, but what I have not seen, and what I wanted to know, is can you complete a hardcore Nuzlocke of enhanced ROM hacks using only a single type? And would every type be capable of this? I'm OTG197, and this is the first video in my series where I'll be attempting to mono Nuzlocke the ROM hacks Sacred Gold Storm Silver and Renegade Platinum with every type. Today, starting with Psychic types in Sacred Gold. Before beginning, I want to shout out the very talented creator of these ROM hacks, Drayano. If you're unfamiliar with his work, I highly recommend you check out his stuff if you're interested in a fresh and enhanced experience in your favorite regions. He has more games than just these two, and the quality is always fantastic. The rules I use for my runs will be in the description below, and additionally, you can watch my comprehensive video explaining my rules, which will also be in the description. The purpose of this series will not be just to complete Nuzlockes with each type, but compare their performances to one another in their respective games. It is for this reason my rules are slightly different from other Nuzlockers, but the core rules of a hardcore Nuzlocke are all there. In this game, all of these Psychic types from generations 1 through 4 will be available to us. However, I don't use legendaries, which takes away quite a few Pokemon, so these will be the Pokemon available to us. Alright, let's see how these Psychic types can handle a hardcore Nuzlocke of Sacred Gold. So we get to pick our starter from Professor Elm, none of which can be a Psychic type, so we will only have them temporarily. We make our way to meet Professor Oak, but we first encounter Cynthia, who gives us an Eevee. Not a Psychic type, but of course can become one. I name her Annabelle, and we will use her until we can capture our first actual Psychic type. In our first battle, we beat some loser who proclaims, "I will be the greatest trainer in the world." So, when later asked to name this guy, I try to think of someone I know who acts cocky and says they're better than you when they never are. So I name him Dark. After getting Pokeballs from Lyra, we will quickly have several encounters available. On Route 30, I catch a Ralts who I name Thespian. On Route 46, I catch a Spoink who I name Ambrosia. On Route 31, I catch a Natu I name Scary Owl. In Violet City, I can fish up a Staryu I name Requiem. And in the Dark Cave, I'm anticipating a Bronzor whose steel typing will be great for Falkner. But instead, I find a Chingling first, which only appears at a 2% rate as opposed to Bronzor's 10%. Oh well, I name it Hourglass, and after these first couple of encounters, I quickly notice something odd. After 5 encounters, we have 2 with a careful nature and 3 with a timid nature. At first, I thought this was a coincidence, and in some cases it was, but this was also due to the synchronizability, which gives a 50% chance of passing the user's nature to a wild Pokemon when leading the party. This is something I can definitely use to get good natures on my encounters. After solving the Ruins of Alph puzzle, I catch an unknown that I name Alchemy, who despite its buffs will not be super useful with its 31 base power, hidden power dragon, and then I catch a Metatite named Rusalka. And just like that, we have 8 team members already. We make our way through this weird cult building where they worship this thing for some reason, and our Psychic types are getting by trainers pretty easily, as Stab Confusion is quite strong for this part of the game, and Pokemon like Spoink and Natu get even stronger moves like Psybeam and Extra Sensory before our level 15 cap. At the top of the tower, Dark is bullying this old man, who we also have to take on. His Hypnosis Hoot Hoot is slightly annoying, but we get by him without any issues. Afterwards, he asks us what our favorite evolution is, so I lie and say Espeon, which prompts him to give us an Obade Orb, Obade, or this thing,
Obad,
which we can use to evolve our Eevee into a magnificent Espeon, allowing it to officially join the team. After training our team up a bit, specifically in HP EVs, it's time to take on the flying type leader Falkner. Falkner leads with Doduo, which goes down easily to 1 extra sensory from Natu. Next, he brings in his much scarier bird, Murkrow, and I'm not sure what my team is supposed to do about this. Nothing can easily switch, so I stay in and take a hard feint attack, but we live and an air cutter amazingly does over half. I switch to Metatite, hoping to tank a feint attack and pivot to something else on an aerial ace, but it goes for aerial ace right away and we barely live. There's a 50-50 chance of aerial ace or feint attack here, and hoping for another aerial ace I switch in Hourglass, and that's what we get. On the next turn, we take a hard feint attack, but can get off a growl to lower Murkrow's attack. I then bring in Alchemy on an aerial ace, which he tanks well, and we should live a feint attack, but we go down to a critical hit. Unfortunate, but this gives me a clean switch into Annabelle. Our tackle does okay damage, but not enough to kill as Murkrow heals itself with a Roost. Ugh, this is very bad. But then on the next turn we hit a critical hit tackle to take him out. How insanely lucky. And with that, our biggest threat is gone. He brings in Farfetch'd, who is a fighting type and will go down easily to a Confusion. Next is Swablu, who is a 2-hit with Confusion and only hits us with a weak Solar Beam. Next is Chatot, who barely isn't a 1-hit kill, but we get a Confusion as he goes for Agility and then takes himself out on the next turn. Last is Pidgeotto, who takes about half from our Confusion, but a Citrus Berry heals him back to 3/4 health, as he hits us with an Aerial Ace which does 13 HP, making us safe to a crit. Falkner stalls us with Roost for a bit as we continue to hit him with Confusion, but eventually the Pidgeotto becomes confused and takes himself out. Oh my god, that went well all things considered, but we did get very lucky. One badge down. On our way to Azalea Town, we're able to finally get our Bronzor in the Union Cave, who I name Cursed Canvas, and when we arrive in town, we can quickly pick up some great new encounters. First is an Execute in Ilex Forest that I named 13th, and then in the Slowpoke well.
My back! Oh, my back!
Yeah, so I gotta go catch a Slowpoke real quick, so I'ma just head on in. So I catch my Slowpoke and name him Obsession. And then we easily clear out the Rocket Goons. There is a boss fight with Admin Proton, but he's pretty easy to take down. I clear out the trainers in Azalea Gym, but I'm still concerned with how my Psychic type team is gonna handle Bugsy. But then Mom comes through in the clutch with the Tango Berries. Let's go. These will reduce super effective bug type damage, and I honestly couldn't have asked for anything better. So now we're ready to take on the Azalea Town gym leader, Bugsy. Psychic types are at a disadvantage here, but I have a plan. I lead with Annabelle against his Butterfree, and a Confusion does a little under half as he sets up a Rain Dance. On the next turn, I use Quick Attack in order to prevent Butterfree from going into healing range, as an Air Cutter does 12 damage to us, and then we take it out with another Confusion and grow to level 22. Next, he sends out Pinsir. I switch into Hourglass on a Fury Cutter, but the damage is halved thanks to our Tango Berry. On the next turn, I use a Growl to drop his attack, and we take another Fury Cutter for 20 damage. I need to start damaging Pinsir before it gets too big of a Fury Cutter chain going, so I use Confusion and Hourglass goes down to another Fury Cutter. Rest in peace. I bring in Natu, hoping for an outspeed and a kill from Air Cutter. We do outspeed, but Air Cutter is not enough to kill. But thankfully, Pinsir only goes for a weak knockoff, and Bugsy heals it on the next turn, allowing us to take it out with 2 more Air Cutters. Next is Yanma. I stay in and go for an Air Cutter, but we miss the Air Cutter and get smacked hard with an Ancient Power. I then switch to Ambrosia on another Ancient Power and we take it well. Yama then hits us with a U-turn, but our Tango Berry reduces its power, allowing us to live just below half. Bugsy sends in Beedrill off the U-turn straight into our Psybeam, which takes it out in 1 hit from a critical hit. Not totally sure if that mattered, but we will definitely take it. Now something you may have noticed is Annabelle has been gaining experience from the EXP share this whole time. and after Beedrill goes down, she gets to level 23 where she learns Power Gem. This is the strategy I alluded to earlier. Yama comes back in, and I dangerously switch to Annabelle on a U-turn, and thankfully there is no crit. But then Scyther comes out, and this is the exact matchup we were hoping for. A quick attack brings us to 3 HP, but we can take it out in one hit with Power Gem. Yama comes back in, and also goes down to a Power Gem. His last Pokemon is Heracross, and I'm not sure if our Confusion will be enough to take it out in one hit, so I switched to Rusalka, who takes over half from a Bug Bite. But thanks to a plus speed nature and level advantage, can get off a Confusion before going down. Getting off that Confusion was absolutely crucial. Rest in peace, Rusalka. This allows me to send Annabelle in on the next turn and take Heracross down with a Confusion, getting us the victory. This was not the cleanest battle by any means, but I'm glad the Power Gem strategy I made ended up working out. 2 badges. Before progressing forward, we have another battle with our rival Dark. Annabelle's newly acquired Power Gem will make his Murkrow trivial. However, we will have to be careful with her experience as she is already at our next level cap. I send in Bronzor to handle the Ghastly, and then put his Croconaw to sleep before switching to Ambrosia, who handles him with Psybeam and Confuse Ray. And then his final Pokemon Kadabra can't do much to us as our Natu takes him out. There isn't a whole lot to do before our next gym. I train up our team, and some Pokemon like Staryu are able to evolve thanks to stones from the department store and finally join the team. We have a few new encounters. First, a Drowsy on Route 34 that I named Fatima, and then a Mime Jr. on Route 36 that I named Coward. I spend a non-insignificant amount of time playing Voltorb Flip in order to get our team some shiny new moves, and then we're ready to take on the Goldenrod City gym leader, Whitney. I lead with Bronzor, who her lead Lickitung can't do much to. I attempt to confuse it without realizing its own tempo ability will prevent it, and I get hit with a weak body slam. On the next turn, I damage it slightly with an extra sensory, which is then disabled. On the next turn, I put it to sleep with a Hypnosis, and then switch to Annabelle. I set up a substitute, but it is immediately broken as Lickitung wakes up to hit a body slam. I then switch back to Bronzor to put it to sleep again. Hopefully we can get better luck this time. I switch to Annabelle again and set up a substitute. Lickitung stays asleep. I then set up a Calm Mind as Lickitung remains asleep. I set up another Calm Mind and Lickitung wakes up to break our substitute with Body Slam. A Confusion is not enough to take Lickitung out as we take a direct Body Slam, leaving us at 14 HP and paralyzing us. I know Whitney will heal, so I stay in and am able to get off another Confusion, taking out Lickitung. Whitney immediately sends in her big guns, her infamous Miltank, and I switch to Bronzor on a weak Body Slam. Quick Claw lets me confuse it, but its Lumberry heals it and a Body Slam paralyzes us on the next turn. I move first again from Quick Claw and hit another Confuse Ray, and then switch to Execute, but Miltank immediately snaps out and hits a critical hit Body Slam we barely live that also paralyzes us. I then switch to Slowking, who tanks 2 Body Slams and then can hit a Disable to prevent her from using the move. Miltank hits us with an Attract, but we're able to break through and hit an important Water Pulse. I then switch to Starmie as Miltank locks itself into Rollout. After building up 2 Rollouts, it's able to take us below half, but we take it out with 3 Psybeams. Next, Whitney brings in Clefable, who I hit with a Psybeam as she sets up a Reflect. Another Psybeam puts it below half, but its Citrus Berry brings it back above as it hits us with a Charge Beam, but thankfully there's no special attack boost. On the next turn, I heal with Recover as we take another Charge Beam, this time boosting Clefable. So I then switch to Ambrosia on another Charge Beam, which also boosts, making this Clefable a bit scary now. On the next turn, I hit a Confuse Ray, but it breaks through and uses Attract on us. I break through the Attract and use a Psych Up to copy its stat boosts, and Clefable then hits itself in Confusion. If we can break through one more time, we can take it out. On the next turn, we don't and take a Water Pulse. On the turn after that, we don't again and take another Water Pulse. we have one more shot. And we do break through, allowing us to take Clefable out with a critical hit Psybeam, which may have mattered, but I'd prefer to imagine it didn't. Whitney then sends in Lopunny, and I switch back to Starmie on a weak jump kick. I then heal myself with Recover, as it goes for agility and will now outspeed us. It hits us with a Dizzy Punch, as our Psybeam is doing a third and slowly healing us with Shell Bell. I take more Dizzy Punches, but heal back more with Recover on consecutive turns, and then take it out with Thunderbolt and Psybeam. Next, she sends in Stantler, and amazingly our Psybeam does over half, and our Shell Bell saves us from a critical hit Stomp, which brings us to 4 HP. On the next turn, another Psybeam takes it out. Lastly, she brings in Wigglytuff, who we can freely heal all our health back against, as she can only hit us with weak Ice Beams and Psychics. She gets a freeze, but a simple switch to Slowking and back heals us with our Natural Cure ability. And despite stalling from Whitney, we can gradually take it out with Psybeam, getting us a miraculous 0-death victory in a nail-biting battle where everyone on our team almost died. 3 badges. Between Whitney and our next gym, there isn't a whole lot that happens. Some members of our team can evolve. Starmie and Slowking can learn Surf after beating this Rocket Grunt. There's a pretty easy battle against Dark. Annabelle dies against a gym trainer. Annabelle dies against a gym trainer. Yeah, I didn't account for Pursuit and lost arguably our best Pokemon. That hurts a lot, but we go on to face Morty nonetheless. And okay, so I do beat him. Executor takes out Duskull, Spoink takes out Shuppet, Starmie takes out Mischievous, Sableye, and Haunter, and then his Gengar comes in, wreaking havoc and taking out Executor, Slowking, and Starmie, and then being finished off by Xatu. By the end of it, our death count is now at 7 and includes some of our most important team members. I know I can get back to this point playing much better, so I decide to voluntarily reset and begin attempt number 2. A couple things go differently for us in attempt 2. I reset the game a few times to try and get good encounters on Eevee, Ralts, and Natu. This is something I sometimes do with my early encounters in these challenges, but I don't count doing this as an actual attempt. More like setup for my next attempt. The things I'm looking for in this instance is a good Espeon, good natures we can use our synchronized strategy with, and a male Ralts, as I think Gallade will offer a much more diverse role for the team than Gardevoir. The first time around, we got pretty lucky in the gyms, so this time we will have to play much cleaner. I do thankfully find Bronzor in Dark Cave, which makes the Falkner battle much cleaner as it can handle Murkrow with Hypnosis, Confuse Ray, and Nightshade. This time, I don't have Tanga Berries, but the Bugsy fight is also cleaner thanks to Bronzor. I don't know why I didn't use it last time, it's really good against the Pinsir, Yanma, and Beedrill, but ultimately we get off our Power Gem strategy in a much less risky fashion, though we do lose Unknown in this battle. This time, I find a Kadabra instead of Drowsy, and against Whitney I figure out a better setup to sweep her with Espeon. I take out the Lickitung with Metatite, and then by putting the Miltank to sleep with Bronzor, I'm able to cripple it using Growl, which I kept on Slowking. I then set Leech Seed on it with Execute, greatly increasing my whole team's survivability against it. By the way, if you're wondering why I haven't evolved Execute when I could have by now, it's so it can learn Giga Drain at level 27. Anyways, I then put Miltank to sleep one more time and send in Espeon to go behind Substitute, which now can't be broken in one Body Slam after the Growls. The Leech Seed damage will make Whitney waste a turn Super Potioning, and after 3 Calm Minds, Espeon is able to easily clean up the rest of her team. This time, I have no issues against Morty's gym trainers, and we're all set to face him again. I lead with Gallade against the Duskull and get off a few Growls to lower its attack and then set up a Light Screen. I then switch to Executor on a Shadow Ball that gets reduced by our Cossid Berry, again shoutouts to Mom, but it annoyingly drops my special defense. I'm able to Leech Seed it on the next turn, but then get hit with a Confuse Ray. I break through the confusion though and put it to sleep with Sleep Powder. I send in Espeon, but it wakes up immediately, so we're not able to set up as the light screen runs out. I put it to sleep again with Bronzor and then go back to Espeon. Like Whitney, the Leech Seed will make Morty waste a turn healing, letting us get a free turn to substitute and get 2 Calm Minds while Duskull stays asleep. When he wakes up, he goes for Confuse Ray, letting us get another free Calm Mind, and then goes for Shadow Sneak, which does not break our sub thanks to the growls from earlier, so I can get another Calm Mind. And then a 5th Calm Mind as he goes for a useless Confuse Ray again. On the next play, I hard call out the Shadow Sneak and go for another substitute, and then finally let this Duskull out of its misery. 5 Calm Minds may seem like overkill, but I want to make sure Sableye will go down to 1 Power Gem. It does, and likewise the rest of Morty's team drops like flies to Psybeam, getting us the win. I think you might be seeing why I said Espeon is arguably our best Pokemon. It has now hard carried through 4 straight gyms. 4 badges. Now that we have Surf, I explore some of the places we couldn't previously access, and then we meet Baoba. Seriously, what even is this name? Anyways, we make our way through the lighthouse, and along the way, Bronzor evolves into the defensive beast Bronzong, and Spoink evolves into Grumpig. Jasmine of course sends us on a mission to Cianwood to help the sick Ampharos, and Executor handles the trainers on the water routes with ease. Also, you may have noticed I gave him and Xatu new names in this run. We take on Ucine, who presents no trouble, and then we're ready to take on the Cianwood gym leader, Chuck. Yeah, 5 badges, moving on. So that was pretty easy, but it won't be so smooth sailing for long. After getting the medicine to Jasmine, we get a call letting us know we can now use the Safari Zone and... Oh wait. Oh no. Oh god.
Here I come to save the day!
Alright, so this is the first of 2 rocket gauntlets, and one of the most infamously difficult sections of this game. It features 2 regular boss battles and 5 double battles, one of which is also a boss battle. Double battles are some of the scariest fights in Nuzlocke, as the chance for bad matchups is increased, and your Pokemon can be double targeted. Though thankfully in the first few double battles, we get assistance from Mira, Buck, Cheryl, and Marley, and have no issues. We have a close call against Petrel, and an extremely close call against Ariana. And I have to say, I'm not necessarily thrilled with how I played this battle, but we did win with no deaths. Still, I definitely need to play safer than that. On the way to the Safari Zone, we can add Baltoy and Girafarig to the team, and then get a much needed heal. Okay, I guess I'm doing it myself. So then we team up with Riley for another double battle against the Rocket Executive Archer. The fight starts smoothly, well, for me at least. They kinda just target Riley, which allows me to safely pick off some of their team members and switch around when needed. We clear out the Grunts team, but Riley's Pokemon are also taken out, leaving us with a 1v1 against Archer. Grumpig does come pretty close to going down, but I hit the pivot to Bronzong to tank the Dark move, and then to Starmie on the Fire move. And then surprisingly, Surf does not one-shot the Houndoom, but we thankfully avoid a crit on the Feint attack and can take it out on the next turn, and then one-shot the Gyarados with Thunderbolt, getting us through the gauntlet with no deaths. And as a reward for our heroic efforts, Bilbo gives us the Safari Zone, where we can add Wobbuffet to the team. With that out of the way, we can now finally take on Olivine City's gym leader, Jasmine. Psychic types are not great versus steel types, but we have some good options for this fight. Against her lead Metang, I set up a nasty plot with Slowking, but take significant damage from a critical hit Earthquake. On the next turn, I take another Earthquake and set up Trick Room, which will now let my Slowking outspeed and one-shot Metang with Flamethrower, followed by a one-shot on Magneton. But then Fortress comes in and I'm not sure who will actually outspeed in the Trick Room, so I switch to Bronzong on a Bug Bite, then chip it with Nightshade and put it to sleep. But Fortress wakes up instantly to Bug Bite me as I go for another Nightshade. Now I'm scared of dying to a critical hit Bug Bite, so I switch to Gallade and use Bulk Up, and then take the Fortress out with Drain Punch, getting some health back and growing to level 41. Jasmine then sends out Skarmory, who takes half from a Drain Punch and poisons us with Toxic. She stalls a turn with Protect, and then a Drain Punch takes her out on the next turn. But now this poison damage is starting to rack up, and knowing I can't one-shot Steelix with its massive defense, I switch to Starmie, who fortunately avoids a crit on Earthquake, and then one-shot Steelix with Surf. Her last Pokemon is her own Bronzong, who cannot really damage us, so after a recover I can easily stay in and take it out with 2 Surfs and a Thunderbolt, getting the win. In hindsight, it would have been safer to pivot to Bronzong on the Earthquake, then to Starmie on Iron Tail, but we got through with the team still going strong, so 6 badges. After defeating Jasmine, we gain access to the Battle Frontier where we can get ourselves some great new items and moves. If you check my rules, I do allow myself access to the max amount of infinitely farmable resources after they become infinitely farmable. But my own personal rule is that I have to first obtain it legitimately, so yeah, for battle points, here is me beating the Battle Factory Brain. And now that I can get the power items, I spend some time to Eevee train my team and can then head east on the map. In Mount Mortar, I can encounter Metang, who will be an incredible addition to the team. Except, I severely underestimate how difficult this thing will be to catch, and despite putting it to sleep and bringing over 30 Ultra Balls, it breaks out of all of them and we fail the encounter. I'm sure some of you may not know this, but the entire Metagross line has an absurdly low catch rate of 3, which is the same as box art legendaries. There is a really tough part of the game coming up that it would be nice to have a Metagross for, but we will have another opportunity to catch Metang later. Anyways, after that we head to the Lake of Rage where I catch a new Slowpoke to replace my Slowking with. Now this is another personal rule I use that I call the Modified Species Clause, which you can also check out in the description. Essentially, it is a species clause that allows me to replace my current member of an evolutionary line with a new one I encounter in a new area under certain conditions. Those being that the original one is still alive, and there are no other viable encounters in that area that I haven't caught yet. In this case, both conditions are met, and I choose to replace my Slowking with this new Slowpoke. I then finish off the rest of my business at the Lake of Rage, and head to take down the Rocket Hideout with Lance. I beat the Grunts with no problem, including this Wobbuffet trainer with Leech Seed. Forgetting about this guy has lost me many team members in normal runs of this game, and I vow to never let that happen again. And then we can battle Petrel. In this fight, we have a problem dealing with his Crobat. It is just so fast and can safely soften up my team by U-turning around and making it hard to switch in against. My Girafarig goes down against his Raticate after taking a U-turn and then being outsped. But then, after a bulk up, Gallade can take out a few Mons, including the Crobat who only has Aerial Ace instead of Brave Bird, and Xatu can take out the Toxicroak. After beating him, we team up with Lance to fight a double battle against Ariana, but there is less to say about this fight. It is very easy, and then we take out the Electrodes to finish our business at the hideout. I backtrack to Cianwood to teach Bronzong Sunny Day using the move reminder, and then we're ready to take on the Mahogany Town gym leader, Price. I lead with Bronzong against his Abomasnow, and I think it's pretty obvious why we taught him Sunny Day. We're gonna use it to get rid of this hail as he misses a Focus Blast. Classic. But then he makes up for it with a crit on the next turn as we use Iron Head. I then switch to Gallade on another Focus Blast and use a Bulk Up as we take a weak Seed Bomb and then finish it with Drain Punch. Frostlass comes in next, and we can take a Shadow Ball with our good special defense, and then barely can't one-shot it with Psycho Cut. I then switch to Espeon on a turn where I know Price will heal, and I'm hoping I can outspeed and kill with our own Shadow Ball. We outspeed, but don't kill and take a Shadow Ball ourselves, thankfully not taking a crit, so we live and can take out Frostlass on the next turn. Next, Price sends out Glalie, and I switch to Slowbro as he sets up Spikes. On the next turn, he sets up another layer of Spikes, and we can take Glalie out with one Surf, as it was given the Rock type in this game, so it's super effective. Next, he sends in Lapras, and I switch to Grumpig on a Thunderbolt that does little damage, but paralyzes us. His Lapras then uses Perish Song as I hit it with a Toxic and then chip it twice with Extra Sensory before having to switch out. I switch to Bronzong as Price also switches into Mamoswine. I take a Stone Edge and hit it with an Iron Head, which will be a 2-shot. I then take a Superpower, which thankfully does not crit, and we take it out with another Iron Head. I probably should have just switched to Starmie there, but I then do exactly that against his Dugong, which can't do much damage to us, and I take it out with a few Thunderbolts. Then his Lapras comes back already damaged and goes down to another Thunderbolt, getting the win in a sorta sloppy battle, but 7 badges. Before we can get our last badge, we have to take on what I consider the most difficult section of this game, the second Rocket Gauntlet, which is essentially just a series of boss battles with some grunts thrown between them. I train up every member we have, including the bench warmers in the box, because this will be a full team effort. So let's just discuss these boss fights. First is Petrol, who we get by with no issues, mostly because this time he doesn't have an annoying U-turn spamming Crobat. And then in the underground we take on a rival who we honestly get incredibly lucky against. The Honchkrow goes down to a Choice Specs Ice Beam, Electabuzz to Cladle's Earthquake, but then the Feraligatr comes in and starts setting up Swords Dance as I switch to Bronzong. It then sets up another Swords Dance as I hit a Hypnosis, and then it stays asleep for 3 straight turns, and on the 4th turn, my Quick Claw activates, allowing me to take it out with Extra Sensory. So much luck worked out in our favor and prevented us from losing a team member when we probably should have. And then against the Gengar, I have to switch around, risking crits to get Starmie in to finish it off, and then also dodge crits on a few attacks from Alakazam and take it out with Xatu. Another deathless fight, but extremely sloppy play overall. Next, we face Proton, and for the most part we deal with his team well. Claydol takes out Electrode, we take a crit Needle Arm with Gallade against the Cacturn, and I switch again fearing Sucker Punch, but bring in Xatu on another Needle Arm. Then we can stall out the rain with Roost, as it just keeps Thunder Punching, so I can take out Cacturn with a Heat Wave, then one-shot Weezing with Extra Sensory. Proton then sends out Tauros, and I switch to Bronzong to soften it up, but lose a lot of health, and switch to Slowbro when I know he will heal. From there, 2 Surfs can take it out. Then comes in what has been a huge nuisance in this run, Crobat. I take a Brave Bird and hit it with an Ice Beam, which will be a 2-hit. I go for an Ice Beam again, but this time Crobat's Brave Bird crits us and we lose Slowbro. Man, that is a big loss. From there, Claydol can clean up his last 2 Mons, and the next fight against Ariana is very easy, though I do get kinda lucky because I switched Starmie here to finish her Milotic, and she just happened to switch to her Honchkrow, which could have been a bigger threat otherwise, but we can just take it out with a Specs boosted Ice Beam, and the rest of her team is easy. And so now we move on to the finale. First we'll take on Archer. He leads with Zangoose and I lead with Gallade, though I mostly have this lead for the next battle, and we have a minus speed nature, so I'm worried I may be slower, and immediately switch to Bronzong on a Shadow Claw. We then take a close combat and I put it to sleep with Hypnosis. I then bring Gallade back in, and turns out we do outspeed, so I one-shot it with Drain Punch. Then comes Gyarados, who drops our attack, and I switch to Bronzong again as it goes for Bounce. I want to hypnosis it after it hits us, but I get trolled by my own Quick Claw and move first, hitting nothing but thin air, and then take the bounce. Now here, I should switch to Starmie because it will use Waterfall, but I stay in and take the Waterfall with Bronzong. It doesn't crit or flinch us, and I put it to sleep with Hypnosis, then bring in Starmie to take it out with Thunderbolt. He then brings in Drapion, and I switch to Medicham on a Crunch. We stay in planning to go down, but get off 2 Brick Breaks before we're taken out with Earthquake. I then send in Gallade, and a Drain Punch doesn't finish it off after its Citrus Berry, but now he will Hyper Potion, so I use the next turn to set up a Bulk Up and then take it out with 2 more Drain Punches. Next, his Machamp goes down to a +1 Psycho Cut, and then we take out Scizor with 2 Drain Punches. Last is his Houndoom, which gets rid of our +1 attack with Intimidate, and then sets up Sunny Day and lives our Drain Punch thanks to a Focus Sash. Here, I'm scared a Sun boosted Fire Blast might kill, so I switch to Starmie, but he uses another Hyper Potion, healing to full. Honestly horrible for us, but then we get a crit on our Surf, taking out Houndoom despite the power decrease from the Sun. Wow, obviously the right play here is to stay in and Drain Punch, but I didn't know he would have another Hyper Potion. This is my first run after all, but good to know for the future. But now we must take on the man himself, Giovanni. We do get healed before the fight, but we are unable to change our team and it will be a 6 vs 5 with him as we can't use Medicham anymore. I lead with Gallade against his Persian, and he opens up with a critical hit Fake Out, but the flinch will increase our speed thanks to our Steadfast ability, which is exactly what we wanted. Though, because of the crit, I am now in range to die to another crit from Slash, so I take it out with Drain Punch and get all my health back instead of using Bulk Up. I can set up a Bulk Up against his Kangaskhan as we take a Double Edge and then also one-shot it with Drain Punch. We lose our attack boost because of Taurus's Intimidate, so I set up another Bulk Up as it just hits a weak payback and then we take it out with Drain Punch. He then sends out Rhyperior, and will a Drain Punch one-shot? It doesn't, and we take an Earthquake, which crits, ignoring my defense boosts and one-shotting us. Man, this plan was to full sweep with Gallade, but now I bring out Starmie to finish up. It takes out the Rhyperior, but will it one-shot the Nidoking? No, and oh, you've got to be kidding me. Well, Xatu cleans up the fight for us, getting us through the second Rocket Gauntlet, but man, we took some seriously harsh losses. And you know, it would be easy to say, okay, well, we get the Rainbow Wing. But as I was saying, oh yeah, good to know, thanks. So anyways, oh my god, shut the f*** up! As I was saying, it would be easy to say this was unlucky or BS, but honestly, I just didn't play good. I've been bringing it up numerous times how I've kept getting lucky in spots where I didn't play around crits, and just didn't play smart in general. It was only a matter of time before that finally caught up to me, and watching over this run in post, it's amazing how far I got before it did. And so, I actually do go on to face and defeat Claire, but afterwards I decide to do another voluntary reset. And look, I know you're gonna hate me for it and say, just keep going and see what happens, but I do honestly think it would be a waste of time, and just be prolonging an inevitable reset. I theory craft the entirety of these runs far before I even do them, and the Pokemon we lost are so integral to our strategies moving forward that I think the loss of them will just snowball into an inevitable wipe, and again, I know I can play much better. So it's time for attempt number 3. I'm not going to go into much detail leading back up to where we left off, except that in this run we catch Pokéris, which is neat, I guess. This time I do catch Metang and overall play much cleaner, and though not all are avoidable, I play much better around crits and get back to the second rocket gauntlet, this time with 0 deaths. Having Metagross this time around proves to be the difference maker against the rival and Proton. Both are much easier. Ariana is easy yet again, and we're back to Archer. His Zangoose is a one-shot, and this time I have Slowbro to check Gyarados. I break Houndoom's Sash as he switches it in for Gyarados, and then take it out with Gallade. Gyarados comes back, and this time Slowbro finishes the job. Bronzong can put Drapion to sleep, and Metagross takes it out with an Earthquake. Against Giovanni, it's the same idea as last time. I take the Fake Out to activate Steadfast, and this time I don't get crit, and then take it out with a Drain Punch. I set up a Bulk Up on the Kangaskhan and take it out with one Drain Punch, and then use another Bulk Up on the Tauros to get my attack boost back after Intimidate, and it also goes down to a Drain Punch. Then the Rhyperior comes in, and this time I brought a little something special for it. A Leaf Blade takes it out in one hit, and then the Nidoking and Nidoqueen are one-shots with Psycho Cut. And with that, we've made it back here with 0 deaths, and I cannot explain how good that feels. Now that I can access the Bell Tower, I can catch a Solrock there, and on the way to face Claire again, I catch a Jinx in the Ice Path. And so then it's time to take on the final Johto gym leader, Claire. Claire leads with Dragonair, and our Jinx takes it out with a Specs boosted Ice Beam. Her Salamence then does outspeed us and hit us hard with a Draco Meteor, but then also falls to an Ice Beam. Altaria then comes in and also falls victim to our Ice Beam spam, but then comes in Gyarados, who I don't want to get out of hand with Dragon Dance, so I switch to Bronzong, but it goes for an Earthquake, which we're immune to. I then take a Waterfall on the next turn and get flinched, and then take another Waterfall and hit a Toxic. After this, I switch to Slowbro as it starts Dragon Dancing, which is a lot less scary now that we have it on a timer. I take little damage from an Outrage and chip it with Ice Beam. I then take another Outrage on the next turn and heal back the damage with Slack Off as the poison takes Gyarados to low health and it becomes confused. Claire then uses a Hyper Potion, but my Ice Beam and the stacking poison damage brings it below half, and then I just use Slack Off to negate any damage, as the poison and confusion take the Gyarados out. Her second Dragonair comes out and hits an Outrage as I do a lot with Ice Beam, then bring in Claydol to take it out. Her last Pokemon is Kingdra, and I bring in Starmie who can take its Hydro Pump, heal back health, and soften it up with a few Ice Beams, getting it to use its Citrus Berry, and I then bring in Metagross and take it out with 2 Ice Punches, getting us the win. 8 badges. Oh. Okay, well, now 8 badges. Now that we have all the Johto badges, we can make our way to the league. And I'm gonna start to speed my way through the rest of the run because I really wanted to keep this video under an hour. We catch Venomoth, who has its poison type changed to Psychic in this game, and then we take on the Kimono Girls and deal with Ho-Oh. Before the league, there's a fight with our rival, which we have no problems with, and now we're ready for the league. I had to think hard about who I wanted to bring, and ultimately, this is the team I decided on. Our fellow Psychic type specialist, Will, doesn't give us any problems. I simply lead with Espeon and set up a Calm Mind against Jinx. We do get put to sleep, but it can't do enough damage to us by the time we wake up and set up another Calm Mind, and then we can sweep his entire team with Shadow Ball. Koga is a Poison type specialist, and you might imagine that'll be very easy, but the battle actually starts out rough. He leads with Venomoth, who, like I said, is a Bug Psychic type, so it won't be weak to our Psychic moves. I start off by missing 2 Meteor Mashes in a row, and now we have to switch into this thing's Bug Buzzes. I then make the mistake of using Toxic with Bronzong, not realizing it was also given the Poison Heal ability, so now I have to switch again, and it will be healing every turn. I switch to Gallade and hit an Ice Punch as I get put to sleep. Then, in complete desperation, I switch to Espeon, hoping it will use Psychic instead of Bug Buzz, and it does, so we can take it out with a Shadow Ball. Phew, I did not expect a Poison Trainer to give me so much trouble, but from there, he brings in Crobat, and I switch into Slowbro, who is now packing Psychic and can take it out easily, and then the rest of the battle goes as expected. Everything goes down to our Psychic moves. Except the Tentacruel, who impressively lives a Psychic from Espeon, but still doesn't accomplish much, so on to Bruno. And the only question with him is, who are we going to sweep him with? I choose Gallade because despite his lead Hitmontop having Intimidate, he will give us a free speed boost with Fake Out, and then his remaining moveset of Sucker Punch, High Jump Kick, and Counter makes him complete setup fodder, and the entire rest of his team goes down in one hit. Now, we face the only league member with a type advantage on us, Karen. I lead with Starmie purely to take the Intimidate from Mightyena, and then hard switch to Gallade on a Fire Fang. We can set up a Bulk Up as its Sucker Punch fails, and then one shot with Drain Punch. Honchkrow comes in next, and I was actually hesitant to stay in and Ice Punch, unsure if it would be enough to knock it out, but I do, and it is. From there, the fight is simple. Drain Punch Absol, Spiritomb we have to Ice Punch, but it goes down in 2, and then the Umbreon lives a Drain Punch, but can't do anything to us and goes down to another, and then of course Houndoom is a one-shot, and we're moving on to the champion. Before facing Lance, I used the rare candies I found throughout the playthrough to give my team some extra levels, and then I enter prepared for our greatest challenge yet. I lead with Starmie, who I gave an expert belt for this fight. The Gyarados is a one-shot with Thunderbolt, and then thanks to our plus speed nature, we outspeed Aerodactyl and it goes down to 1 Surf. Can his strongest Dragonite live an Ice Beam? No, it cannot. Obviously his weaker Dragonite won't either, neither will the Garchomp. Then Charizard actually lives a Surf, but just uses Swords Dance and then goes down on the next turn, which gets us through the league without taking a single point of damage to Lance. Are y'all sure this isn't Chuck in disguise? Well, with that anticlimactic ending, we're set to make our way to Kanto, which is for the most part just a gauntlet of gym leaders, most of which are very easy, so I'm gonna speed through them. First is Brock. We have water types, steel types, and a grass type. It's very easy. There's another fight with the rival where we have a sort of scary moment, but get by without issues. Against Misty, I get rid of her Rain with Sunny Day, and I'm hoping to sweep with Chlorophyll. It isn't quite that simple, as I do end up having to switch around more and rely on my water types to wall her moves, but she presents no issues. Surge is pretty much always a joke if you have Earthquake users, and we have Claydol, Bronzong, and Metagross. Before facing Janine, we have to deal with this very silly plotline of Fuchsia being infested by a horde of Cloysters and Shelders. Janine is a poison user like her dad, so she isn't hard to beat. However, her Drapion and Venomoth are pretty threatening, and I ultimately have to sack someone to take out the latter, and that ends up being Claydol. Against Erica,
don't go easy on me. Give me everything you've got.
Alright, Ice Beam, Ice Beam, Ice Beam, Ice Beam, Ice Beam, Ice Beam, and we're done. Against Best Girl Sabrina, I use Venomoth for the first time, who can solo her whole team with just Bug Buzz and Sleep Powder. A strategy she was so impressed with that I got her number.
That's what I'm talking about!
Most of Blaine's team just goes down to Starmie's Surf, and I only ever use another move one time, which is Rain Dance to get rid of his son. Very easy, and then we're ready to take on the last gym leader in Kanto, Blue. This cocky little said all the Johto gyms are weak and he wouldn't face me until I get all of the other Kanto badges, as if I didn't just turn them all into like a 2-minute montage. Anyways, let's see how good he really is. My Espeon one-shots his lead Nidoqueen with a Psychic, and then Tyranitar comes in. Despite being 4 times effective, I'm not sure if Aura Sphere will one-shot with the special defense boost from the sand, so I bring in Gallade on a crunch and use a Drain Punch, which definitely will one-shot. Then he sends in Gyarados and I bring in Slowbro. I take a bounce and do about half with Psychic, and then Blue switches into Executor. I switch to Bronzong, and even though he puts us to sleep, he can't do much damage, especially after dropping his special attack with Leaf Storm, and his only other move being Psychic. So it takes a while, but we ultimately win the stall war with Toxic and Iron Head. Next is Machamp, and I switch to Slowbro, who can tank his moves and take him out with Psychic. Though we get burnt by a Fire Punch, and then end up taking a lot of chip damage from that and the sand. Then comes in Rhyperior, and switching will be risky, so I just stay in hoping we can outspeed, but we don't, and a Megahorn takes out our Slowbro. He did a great job, rest in peace. From there, Starmie can easily clean up with a Surf and a Thunderbolt on the Gyarados, and with that, we receive our 16th and final badge. This will grant us access to the Cerulean Cave, where we can make our final catch of the run. The ultimate psychic Pokemon, Lunatone. Now from here, some people might just go to red and call it a run, but I've always had a thing where I don't consider a run finished until I defeat every trainer. So we will be rematching the league, and I even call up every gym leader to do their rematches. Hi, Sabrina. Hey baby, yeah, you know, same old. A battle? I think I can, schedule you in. Yup, you know me. Alright, I'll see you around. In these fights, I decide not to use level caps, mostly because their levels don't scale evenly, but we get some good training against them and defeat them all mostly without issue, except for Hypno, which goes down against Claire, and then I was going to sack Lunatone against Blue, but he saved his life with a lucky freeze. But with them out of the way, we're ready for our rematch with the league. Oh, and real quick, let's all laugh at Chuck again. Though, real quickly, just to clarify before someone asks, the reason my entire team is in Master Balls now is because I mistakenly thought the new league level cap was 84, but it is actually 81. So I over-leveled my entire team, and rather than let that small accident ruin the run, I just used a code to get exact replicas of them, with everything being identical down to Nature's abilities and Ivy's, and then caught them all in Master Balls. I guess I'm almost like the Psychic Master himself. So now, in the rematch against Will, we have another Bronzong vs Executor Stallfest that we come out on top of, but then he puts up a much better fight than last time, damaging us heavily and spreading a lot of burns with Gardevoir, as well as Jinx being a wall and putting us to sleep. But ultimately, we have the switch-ins we need to keep everyone safe, and we can win just by walling and out-damaging him. Koga is very easy this time. The only team members he has that won't get blown up by psychic moves are Skuntank, who instead goes down to Metagross Earthquake, and Venomoth, who goes down to a Metagross Bullet Punch, and Metacham's Banded Psycho Cut. Bruno is Bruno. We use the exact same strategy as last time, and yeah. This time, Karen leads with a Weavile, who will use a first turn Fake Out and give our Gallade a speed boost. I then use Drain Punch to take it down to its Sash, and then use a Bulk Up as Karen spends a turn to heal, and then take it out with another Drain Punch. This time I brought Substitute for the Honchkrow, which I should have done last time. I know we one-shot it, but I'm not totally convinced it wasn't a range, but Substitute will allow us to have it chip itself using Brave Bird, making our one-shot with Ice Punch more guaranteed. We can then get back all our health by one-shotting Shiftry with Drain Punch, followed by Absol, Umbreon, and Houndoom. I'm going to be honest, these fights against Karen are most of the reason I reset after losing Gallade in Run 2. But now we will go on to face Lance for the last time. but will it be as easy? Well, Starmie one-shotting Gyarados with Thunderbolt is as guaranteed as always, but then comes in Tyranitar, who will take special attacks well because of the sand, so I send in Gallade on a Stone Edge and take it out with a Drain Punch. Then Charizard comes in and I switch back to Starmie as it sets up Sun. Because of this, I go for Thunderbolt over Surf, which will take it out in 2 hits as it only hits us with a weak Focus Blast. Next is Flygon, who I figure will be a one-shot with Ice Beam, but it lives thanks to its Yache Berry, and then it hits us hard with an Outrage before we take it out with another Ice Beam. I'm actually scared Dragonite will live an Ice Beam, as Starmie does not have the Expert Belt this time, so I switched to Bronzong on an Outrage, and then hit it with a Toxic, then switch to Metagross, who is safe to a possible crit, and then finish it with an Ice Punch, and can outspeed the Garchomp thanks to a Choice Scarf, and also take it out with an Ice Punch. And now we are finally on to the final challenge of this run, Red. To commemorate the run, I take a picture with our final squad, and we head into Mount Silver. Even though Red's Pikachu is level 94, I set my level cap to 90 because it is more in line with the rest of his team, and it's just a Pikachu. My Metagross, who is again holding a Choice Scarf, takes it out with 1 Earthquake. Then comes in Charizard, who I can't even hit if I wanted to, so I switch to Starmie on a Fire Blast. Our Specs boosted Surf won't take it out in 1 hit due to its Pachot Berry, but we live in Air Slash and finish it on the next turn after he heals. Then comes in Venusaur, and I switch to Bronzong, who can live a few Power Whips and take it out with 2 Zen Headbutts. Red then sends out Blastoise, and I stay in, willing to let Bronzong go down, but he misses a Hydro Pump, and I'm able to hit a Toxic. I then decide to spare Bronzong's life and switch to Gallade on another missed Hydro Pump. I hit him with a Drain Punch to the orange after the residual damage, and then he misses another Hydro Pump. Hey Red, you know there's this move called Surf, right? Anyways, he then heals back to full and finally hits a Hydro Pump, but after a bulk up and 2 Drain Punches, he goes down. Next, he sends out Espeon, and I switch to Metagross as he goes for Reflect, so it will take 2 Meteor Mashes to take him out, as we just get hit with a Shadow Ball. Lastly, he sends out Snorlax, and I switch to Medicham on a Crunch, and then my Banded Drain Punch isn't enough to take him out due to the Reflect, and we take a critical hit Body Slam, which doesn't kill us, but the Hail finishes off our Medicham. Rest in peace. We greatly appreciate your contribution, which opens us up to finish the battle with an Aura Sphere from Espeon, and then of course my computer gets a pop-up to ruin my footage, but that is it. That is a hardcore Nuzlocke of Sacred Gold completed using only Psychic types. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this run, leave a like, leave a comment, and I've got many more runs coming, so if you'd like to see them, consider subscribing. Stay tuned for my Psychic types ranking video. Have a good one, and I'll see you next time.